People of the internet! Welcome back to another video. It is I, Don Thomas, back in here with another one. As always, folks, the likes, the comments, the subscribes have all been greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for the support on this channel. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic, folks. I got a video pulled up here. It comes from CBS Evening News, in which they entitled the video, Affordability Gap. Most Americans are not making enough to cover basic cost of living. Folks, you know this is a topic that I speak on from time to time on my channel. Jobs are not hiring. AI coming for people's jobs. Students in student loan debt, not seeing the value in college and things of that nature. This is all up the alley of the things that I feel like are at the forefront of a lot of people's concerns. People are struggling to make ends meet. People are putting their best foot forward and still to no avail are unable to be able to just go about their lives and be able to comfortably handle the average cost of living. So I want to get into this video, of course. Let's get some insight for this. Of course, I'll share my thoughts. I encourage you guys to share your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let's get into it.
Majority of Americans don't make enough money to cover some of the basic costs of living, like healthcare and rent. It's called the affordability gap. For tonight's interview, we're joined by Gene Ludwig, founder and chairman of the Ludwig Institute for Shared Economic Prosperity, which authored the new report. Gene, thank you for being with us. What's the key takeaway from your report?
John, the key takeaways, you might say, are three. Number one, 60% of Americans, and less fortunate even, can't meet a minimum quality of life standards. So 60% of Americans can't afford a minimum quality of life, point one. Point two, things are getting worse, not better. And point three is that, you know, it's interesting, the fact is we don't have good statistics publicly. The headline statistics are misleading and painting a rosier picture than in fact is lived experience.
Let me ask you about minimum quality life relative to, say, something like the Consumer Price Index. Is that what you're talking about, that mismatch?
That's exactly right. In other words, the indexes that are out there right now are really survival indexes. They're valuable. They tell us something. We have one at LISA, that is the Ludwig Institute for Shared Economic Prosperity, which I represent. And but they don't tell us, you know, really the kind of life that is the basic life you need to come up to the American dream, to make life better for yourself.
The report shows an income gap, and we're going to put a graphic up on the screen, between the top 20% of earners and the bottom 60%. You say we're not sharing enough of the pie. Help people understand what that means.
Well, for the last, we think 40 years, but certainly the last 20 years, middle and low income Americans' well-being has declined. But as you can see from that graph, that isn't true for the upper income groups.
And also, let's look at some specific things that used to make up the American dream. Housing is up 130% since 2001. Healthcare, 178%. The amount of savings needed to attend college, 122%. I mean, wages can never keep up with those kind of increases. So what do those numbers tell us?
Well, they tell us that wages, by the way, during this 20-year period, were up about 98%. There's a huge gap between the increase of these costs and the increase in wages, which means over 20 years, middle and low-income Americans have actually declined in terms of their ability to afford these things. Real wages are down 4.2%.
So, Gene, if you had to take on one thing, what would it be?
I think it's getting the facts out. I think you've got to be able to have good headline statistics, good statistics that policymakers can understand, so they can focus on the right target. If they don't have the information, they're going to basically create policies that don't work. And so that's number one, headline statistics. Number two is measuring the policies that people have and see whether they work or not. People come to Washington to do good things, but it doesn't mean necessarily the prescriptions they have really work.
Gene Ludwig, we are very grateful for being with you. Thank you so much.
There you heard it, folks. According to the gentleman, Gene Ludwig, a lot of things those numbers that I'm hearing were astronomical, folks, in terms of, again, the gap between wages and cost of living. We're talking about just survival, basic necessities, healthcare, groceries, food, and this, that, and the other, whatever the case is. Education, if you are in college or students, whatever the case. We're just talking about the basics. Housing market, we know how that's been across the nation. Job, workforce, getting jobs, keeping jobs, layoffs, AI, we know how that's been going. Healthcare, groceries, we know how that's been going. It seems like it's a downward spiral, folks, and videos like these are a stark warning that something ain't right, and we should maybe focus more of our attention on finding solutions. The wage gap, I spoke about that as well before too, in terms of just the gap between simple necessities. Why is it that the prices of everything else is going up but the wages? Why aren't the wages taking into consideration the cost of living? anywhere in the world, man. I feel like we got to take all of that into consideration. It's a recipe for disaster if your day-to-day expenses are on a steady incline, but your wages are stagnant. What's the solution? What's the alternative? Again, that video comes from CBS Evening News, talking about the affordability gap, folks. It's scary out here, man. It's scary out here. The rules of the game are getting harder and harder. I've been saying that for some time. Like, it's not as easy to make ends meet as it once was. Let's just keep it real. Be grateful, man. You got a roof over your head. Your bills are paid on time. Food in your fridge. You're doing a lot better than a lot of the people in the nation, in the world. Depending on where you're at right now, man. It's scary for a lot of different people because people are feeling like they've exhausted all their options, all their resources, and still unable to, again, just make ends meet. We're not talking about living lavish lifestyles. We're talking about survival, folks. People are having a hard time surviving. And again, we've been speaking about the American dream as of late as well, too. If that's maybe growing out of reach. I spoke on a segment on that before as well, too, on how Gen Z feels like the American dream, quote unquote, is moving further and further out of reach. A lot of things just don't seem that much attainable. Getting married, buying a home, paying off student loan debt. This the basic necessities of, the traditional steps that younger generations into adulthoods usually make. Those things are not as easily obtainable. People are finding alternative methods. And I support that, folks. Again, we have to be able to adjust to the times. We have to adjust to the times. The times right now are scary. So whatever the traditional vision of the American dream was, you might have to throw that out and start new with your own dream. You might have to get a little bit more creative on what you're going to be doing to survive. Make ends meet, make money. That one job, or whatever the case is it secure? That degree, that trade, that skill that you're holding on to, is it secure for the long haul? Can it, stand the test of time versus AI and layoffs and all the things that are happening in the world, the unforeseen? I feel like people just got to get a little bit more creative in terms of what they're doing to make ends meet. Multiple streams of income instead of depending solely on one. Sharpening their skill sets and their mindset, if anything, at the very least, in terms of how to weather these storms, folks, is very important. I don't think it's game time out here. And of course, as you heard the gentleman said as well too, it's not getting better. It doesn't seem as if there's the light at the end of the tunnel, some might project. So really got to get creative, ask for guidance, ask for wisdom, in terms of how to just survive here in the United States of America, or really, really around the world, because I feel like every sector of the world right now has their difficulties, whether it's housing, whether it's jobs, whether it's food shortages. Everywhere in the world has the thing that they are looking at as an obstacle right now, and I feel like we have to start using extra means, creative means to, one, as the man said as well, to start stating the facts, start putting this in the major headlines, start putting the realistic facts in these headlines. Let's put some of our attention more on the things that really do matter, opposed to all the other things that don't matter. And then really start finding solutions to some of these difficult questions, folks. I think that's the approach we all need to be taking. I think these are some of the things that need to be at the forefront of our list of priorities in terms of, again, just being able to survive. But those are my thoughts, folks. Of course, I want to hear yours down in the comment section below. As always, the likes, the comments, the subscribes are all greatly appreciated. I will catch you guys on the next one.